It looks like Marjorie Harvey's dark history is back in the spotlight again, and this time, more scandalous details and shocking revelations are going to see the light with her ex-husband, Jim Townsend, giving a huge interview to Tasha K and airing all the dirty linen of his ex-wife. And guys, the things he said during that talk with Tasha already sent a shockwave through the entire show business. And it was even stated that Steve and Marjorie are looking for ways to silence Jim for speaking the truth. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Celeb Live Channel. Just in case that you don't know that, Tasha K is a popular YouTuber and gossip blogger. She is most known for her pop culture discussion, and apparently, a lot of celebrities don't like what she says about them. However, this time, Tasha was not making anything up, and she decided to get the intel on Marjorie from the person who knows everything about her shady past.
And people were telling me, they said, you gotta look into Jim Townsend, he's out. And I'm like, who is this?
Unless you live under the rock, you should already know by this time that Jim Townsend is the very first husband of Marjorie and the father of her two kids, Morgan and Jason, who were officially adopted by Steve Harvey and took his last name when Marjorie and Steve got married. And it looks like Jim is not happy that Marjorie decided to sever all ties with her past and, mainly, prevent her kids from seeing their father. While serving his time in jail for buying a stash of candy nose, Jim found out that Marjorie was hopping from one man to another in order to get her life settled, but didn't lose his time behind the bars as well. And he was working on a tell-all book called Snakes in the Garden.
I've been working on a book for quite some time. It's called Snakes in the Garden. You were slated to release a few...
Now, I wrote the book 13 years ago.
So while many people in the industry hold their breath waiting for the book, in the recent interview with Tasha, Jim agreed to reveal several interesting details of his past life with Marjorie. And boy, this story is definitely worth your time. Apparently, Jim and Marjorie met when she turned 18, and he was 32 at that time, and married to another woman. However, it didn't prevent their romance from blooming, but it wasn't enough for Marjorie because she wanted to have this man all to herself. As Jim mentioned in his talk with Tasha, she's been manipulative since the very beginning of their relationship, and apparently, she lied to him about her birth control and got pregnant on purpose.
She was saying, oh, no, I'm on the birth control pill. I'm on the pill, blah, blah, blah. So that's cool. But she ended up getting pregnant.
So, Jim left his wife for Marjorie, and they started ruling the streets of Memphis together, and despite their ups and downs, they looked solid, and apparently, Marjorie would not even thinking of divorcing him if he hasn't been sent to jail for the rest of his life. Jim Townsend was eventually caught in an undercover sting operation and was sentenced to life imprisonment in 1992. And while Jim was awaiting for his sentence, he made a deal with the feds. He agreed to take the blame if the police left Marjorie alone. However, in his interview with Tasha, Jim dropped a major bomb and certainly stained Marjorie's reputation by finally admitting that she was not only his wife at that time, but also a member of his drug ring. The irony of the whole thing is that Marjorie portrays herself as a sophisticated lady, and it's hard to imagine her running errands for her kingpin husband. But it was exactly what Jim had told Tasha when she asked him if he had taken all the blame for his pregnant wife and saved her from being imprisoned as well.
Like, did you do time for her? Did you save her from getting an indictment as well?
Yeah, I told you that's the paperwork I was...
While this all already is quite shocking because it's the real proof of everything we've been hearing about for months, Jim confessed that the secrets he spills during this interview with Tasha are only the beginning of the story, and the real juice is coming with his tell-all memoir he has been working for. Well, Jim Townsend certainly knows how to create suspense, and I guess we will get the full picture of Marjorie's true nature as soon as this book hits the shelves. Apparently, there will be even more details about Marjorie's involvement in her ex-husband's criminal business, and probably, at some point, Jim would reveal that she was using herself, and for her, Jim was nothing more than her free pass to unlimited amount of nose candy and other stuff. Well, Jim is now confident that Marjorie is a sneaky and scheming woman. But here's where she made a huge mistake. Naively expecting that Jim is going to rot in jail, she decided to pursue her happiness, and less than 5 years into Townsend's life sentence, she divorced him. Fortunately for Jim Townsend, and to Marjorie's utter shock and disbelief, he was released in January 2017 after serving 26 years of his sentence following a pardon from then President Barack Obama. And seeing how Marjorie is now settled in her life, it's no wonder that Jim is feeling fooled because he took all the blame for her. And this is how she repaid him. I mean, probably Jim could have forgiven her if she waited a bit longer before getting married again. But Marjorie was not the kind of making money for herself, so she jumped into a relationship with another kingpin named Darnell Woods. Not much is known about their short time or the circumstances surrounding their split. But it doesn't look like a coincidence that Darnell was caught in the action, just like Jim, and there's suspicion that Marjorie could have played a role in it. And it seems like Jim is saving this part of the story for his memoir, because the part of his book description on Amazon reads, "You'll get a front row seat to see what it's like to face violence, drug dealing, my marriage to Marjorie Harvey, current wife of actor, comedian Steve Harvey, and greed, and how it can impact someone's life." It looks like Jim had a lot of time to put two and two together, and now Marjorie is associated only with greed in his head. And although he has not called her a gold digger in his interview with Tasha, it was heavily implied that Jim cracked Marjorie's tricks. And he was extremely mad at her for betraying him and believing he was not able to provide for his kids while he was in jail. In fact, as he told Tasha, both Morgan and Jason had the best childhood ever, and it was thanks to the money he left Marjorie.
I wasn't even born when I left prison. Morgan was, but Morgan had the best of everything. All her life, went to private school, had the best of everything.
So it seems like Marjorie didn't have enough faith in Jim or simply didn't want to associate herself with a convinced felon. And that's why she went on to seek happiness for her kids and, of course, a wealthy man to provide her needs. Because when she was with Jim, she was living like a queen. But the call of wealth was stronger than any loyalty to the man who went down and saved her from prison. And that's why she threw herself in the arms of Steve Harvey, knowing that he'd been in love with her from the first sight. And Steve himself never denied the fact that Marjorie captivated his heart and mind since the moment he had laid eyes on her. Steve and Marjorie first met in 1987 when he was performing a stand-up set in Memphis. The comedian took notice of her after she arrived late and took a seat in the front, prompting him to take the opportunity to speak to her during his set. As the comedian recalls that moment, the very first thing I said to Marjorie was, "I don't know who you are, but I'm going to marry you one day." That was the beginning. But back then, Marjorie didn't need him. He couldn't provide her the same level of wealth as she got used to with Jim. So she stayed in her quite comfortable marriage with a man who was 14 years older but 5 years later, when Jim was charged with buying nose candy, Marjorie suspected that it was her time to escape. And at first, she played her role of a faithful wife quite believable and was even visiting Jim in jail. But after some time, she found another kingpin who could provide her, so she realized that she didn't need to pretend a loving wife anymore. As Jim said in his interview with Tasha, this was the first time he realized the real reason why Marjorie had been married to him all these years.
Too, in my mindset, it wasn't, okay, you played me like that, you didn't call me like you said you were, now, so.
Eventually, Marjorie secured her position of a wife of a celebrity, and she doesn't seem to let it go. She has been flaunting Steve's hard-earned money left and right, and we all know how generous Harvey is when it comes to spoiling Marjorie and her daughter Lori with expensive gifts. And I guess we've all felt that pang of jealousy learning about Lori's new Lamborghini that Daddy had bought her. Many people have long suspected that there's something fishy in this relationship between Marjorie and Steve, especially when it comes to Marjorie's true feelings. As you may remember, she didn't even like Steve in the beginning, mainly because he had nothing valuable to offer her. However, as he rose to success and managed to become a respected and a wealthy man, she was quick to jump into his bed, and by the way, at that time, he was still married to his second wife, Mary. There is only one possible conclusion that can be done here. Marjorie decided to be with Steve in order to improve her financial position, and being married to a drug kingpin was kinda not the safest position in the world. She decided to try her chances with the famous TV host and comedian, as Steve foolishly welcomed her and her offsprings under his roof, and as many people say, it was everything he had ever dreamed of. As one person commented, "Is Harvey that desperate?" Sounds like it looks like it. It is shame on Harvey. That woman is beautiful. Her looks made her every man mesmerizing. And another user added, "I think she is a sneaky snake. I feel sorry for Steve falling for this woman." Well, Steve Harvey is a rich man, and when he and Marjorie got married, he had a net worth of around $40 million, which only grew over time. And according to the recent data, now this man's net worth is $300 million. And it seems like Marjorie doesn't allow him to relax because how else is he going to spend his money on her business ideas? If you don't know guys, apart from dealing and changing men, this lady has a thing for fashion. And in 2020, she turned her passion into a real project when she launched an online consignment boutique with pieces straight from her closet. Yeah, you heard it right. Ranging from $50 to $5,500, the website is stocked with merchandise from the fashion industry's most celebrated designers. And while Marjorie and Lori enjoys their position of beloved wife and daughter of one of the richest TV hosts in America, Jim says that the other kids who were basically forced to take Steve's last name are not so happy about having him as a daddy. As Jim recalled, his son Jason was against becoming a part of Steve Harvey's blended clan, and he even dared to say to the famous comedian that he would never be his father.
He told Steve Harvey one day, "You're not my father. Jim Townsend, my father," like that.
According to Townsend, Steve was deeply hurt by this statement because he was planning to fully replace Jim both for the kids and their mother Marjorie. As Jim said to Tasha, it was pure jealousy.
Really, what? Could have been, you're a multi-millionaire. I ain't nobody, you ain't got to worry about me.
However, Marjorie knows how to play her game, and the lengths she went to convince Steve that he was the only man in her life were sometimes awful and completely cruel. As Jim mentioned, to prove her loyalty to Harvey, Marjorie cut all ties with her ex-husband and even didn't allow him to see his kids. It's unclear who insisted on them taking Harvey's last name, but it seems like it was a part of agreement between Steve and Marjorie, and it suited them both. While Jim is aware of this blended family image, he says it's all for camera. And in reality, there are a lot of squabbling between the family members, and Steve himself is kind of tired of having so many people around. Well, Steve's real connection with his biological kids, or should I rather say absence of connection, is not a secret, and there were even reports that his family is driving him crazy. Well, Steve tries his best to be a great father for Marjorie's kids, and especially Lori, since neither Morgan nor Jason don't need anything from him. At the same time, he completely neglects the needs of his biological children, and cares about only Lori because she's Marjorie's child. And Jim knows that it was Marjorie who wanted her ex-husband to rot in jail, and apparently, despite Steve's connections and a possibility to help Jim get out of jail, he convinced him not to do anything. And Jim found out about that when he was talking to his daughter Morgan on the phone.
But you know, it's who you know.
Right.
Spoke to the mayor of the city, who had connection with this congressman. Talked to the congressman.
And it's just another reason to finally take revenge and make Marjorie pay for her criminal activities in the past. As Jim hopes, with his book, all her public image will collapse quickly, and he is glad to spill more juice on Marjorie's past. Many fans believe that Tasha's interview was a real success, and Jim Townsend completely ruined his image of a jealous and bitter man. It's clear that he still has a lot to say about Marjorie's past, and fans only wonder what other secrets of her shady past he is planning to reveal in his tell-all memoir. As one person commented, finally, this man is speaking. He confirmed what we already knew. That lady always wanted to be big time at any cost. And another user added, I hope his book becomes a bestseller. He has a right to speak his truth and write and sell his book. Well, I don't know about you guys, but if Jim Townsend actually saves the best bits of his story for the book, it may be well worth reading. And let's hope that Steve Harvey won't use his influence and wealth to stop this tell-all memoir from being released. And what do you reckon? Is Jim trying to make some money by speaking about his ex-wife's past? Or is he just a man who needs to share his story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'm eager to know what you're thinking. And in the meantime, check my other videos about Marjorie Harvey and her shady past. It may all become clear for you. Well, that's all for today. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned, and I promise to be back very soon.